this, the result, the overall score. Okay?
Okay, so now we are in the middle of the chapter candidate selection, and as you all know, there is one method which is about interviews. So everybody knows what an interview is, but there is a difference between a professional interview or a non-so-professional interview. So let's have a look at a typical interview, how it's done well. So on this slide here you can see a very typical structure of an interview. And here you see on the x-axis, on the horizontal axis, you see time. On the other axis you see the tension. What tension? The tension of a candidate. When you enter an interview, you are nervous, so there is some tension. Okay, now let's look how this tension change over the course of an interview. So at the beginning tension is probably high. You are very uncertain, you don't know what will happen in the next 1 or 2 or so hours. So the very first question in every interview, the very first question in the interview is what? It is, did you find the way well? How are you? Things like this. So it's very, very informal. It's kind of, it's an approach to say, well, let's have a little small talk, let's get close to each other. The idea is just to reduce the tension, okay, so that you as a candidate, you feel comfortable. You feel, yes, this is a situation where I can open myself and I can talk about myself. So, the next step always is that, or it should be, that the company presents itself. So it's about the job, it's about the company, so you can lay back a little bit and you just can listen, maybe asking some questions or so, but it's the company's turn and they present you the job in question and the company and what the company does and the products and all these things. But then, after a while, it's your turn. And in this phase, it's your chance to present yourself. Later on, we're going to talk about what the most important questions are. But at this point, you can just take home that it's about you, it's about why are you here, it's about what are your strengths, where are you good at, how would you solve certain problems, and things like this. Okay? We'll talk about these questions in a minute. Then after this, you get the chance to address some open questions, or the company will address some open questions to you. But at this point already, it's close to the end of the interview. And then at the end you talk about the next step. So this is a very typical structure of interview, of a personal interview. What are the questions? I mean, there are hundreds of books out there around what are the typical questions in interviews. There are some career advisors telling you what are the questions I must expect in any kind of interview. And when we summarize the different types of questions, then it's at least about 5. It's about 5 questions, and you can see those on the right-hand sides, on the employer column. These are the questions typically addressed by an employer. Why are you here? This is about your motivation. Why are you interested in this particular job? What can you do for us? So what's going to be your contribution to the success of the company, to the department, to the team, to the product, or whatever? Okay? What kind of person are you? This is very much about your personality. Do you really fit into the social environment of the company? Into the social environment of the team? When I was a recruiter at SAP, I always ask myself, will the other people in the team like this person? So it's very much about you as a person, about your personality and how you fit into the social environment. And then, of course, what is special about you? What distinguishes you from others who have the same skills? Yeah? What are the unique strengths which you can show? This might be the ultimate argument related to you why the employer should go for you. Okay? And then last but not least, can we afford you? Think about people which are really ambitious, are really talented, have demonstrated a strong career path in their past. People really have strong expectations about their future career. And now think about this particular candidate applying for, let's say, a small company in the midst of Black Forest. This company will ask itself, can we afford this guy? Yeah? Can we really pay the salary this person expects? Can we really meet the expectation of this person? Can we afford this person? But this is only half of the story. In a professional interview, it's not only about the employer's questions, it's not only that the employer wants to know a lot of things about you. In a professional interview, it's also about the candidate's questions. And on the left side of this slide, you will find the typical questions a candidate must be able to address in any kind of interview. So let's have a look at these. Why am I invited? I mean, it's not that you would ask this question in that way, but in a professional interview, the employer should tell the candidate, why have we invited you? Yeah? Why, what do we think is special about you? Or at least you as a candidate, you would like to know, okay, why did you invite me? Is there anything in my CV which really catched your interest? What can your company offer me? I mean, what I always tell to companies is that nowadays, in the midst of the talent shortage, it's not only that the candidate must convince the employer, it's not only that the employer at the end makes a choice whether to hire this guy or the other guy. It's also about the candidate. The candidate today, a talented, qualified candidate today, has options. And the candidate will ask himself, why should I go for this company and not for another company? Okay, so what can you offer me? Not only in terms of salary, but also maybe in terms of what kind of tasks I will be responsible for. How about international tasks? How about work-life balance and all these different things? Right? What kind of employer are you? While the employer might ask himself about your personality, you as a candidate, you will ask yourself about what kind of culture will I find in this company? What is important to the people in this company? Yeah? Do I fit to this culture? What distinguishes your company from others? What is special about this particular company? Or can I afford working at your company? I mean, you must think that most of the professors in our faculty, they had management positions before they took this role, this job, and they earned way more than what they earn today. Even for myself, to me it was clear that once I take over this professorship, I will earn less than before. So the question is, can I afford working for this company? Am I willing to pay this price? Or am I willing to travel 1 hour every day to work? So these things which are similar to the employer perspective, can we afford you? I ask myself, can I afford working at your company? So the most important message on this slide is there are questions from both sides. And in a professional interview, both sides must be able to answer their questions. Now let's have a look into more concrete questions. I showed you that these questions are only very generic, but in practice, no company will ask this way. But what are the typical questions in an interview? Let's have a look. So, on this slide you will find some very, I would not say typical examples, but the type of questions are kind of typical. Don't expect the exact wording in one of your interviews, but the type of questions is very, very typical. Let me pick out one of these, planning, the second one. This question is about planning. It's about your planning skills, about your competency in planning. So the question is, describe a time when things didn't turn out as you had planned? What did you do to analyze the situation, and how did you address the issue? Now, I think every student should be able to reflect on his or her past. I mean, all of you have experienced situations like this, so the question now is, how did you deal with such a situation? You see, with such a question, an employer really wants to go very concrete, really want to see how you behave in certain situations. Okay? So these are just some examples on this slide. You can read through the others. Sometimes it could happen that you experience so-called puzzle questions. You have puzzle questions. I give you a very typical example. A typical example is, how many times does a human being use the word "and" in a day? Again, how many times does a human being use the word "and" in a day? What is the right answer? Is the right answer to say, I don't know? No, probably not. If you say, I don't know, 100? Yeah, that's even worse. What is the right answer to this question? Must think, once a company asks this particular question, or a question like this, the company wants to see whether you have the skills, the competencies to answer a question like this, a problem like this, in a very analytical way. So you would respond, oh, interesting question. I don't know, but let's see. A human being is talking, let's say, 4 hours a day. And in an hour, in a minute, a person uses, let's say, 10 sentences. So we have 600 sentences in an hour. 600 times 4 is 2,400. Now let's say in every second sentence we use the word "and", then it's 1,200. The correct answer is 1,200. At the end, nobody cares about whether this number is correct or not. It's your way how you deal with problems. Different question, very typical question, which is typically addressed to business graduates. What is the daily revenue of H&M store in Stuttgart? Of course, nobody in this room does really know the correct answer, but you should be able to calculate this, right? Okay, so this is about interview. Once you are invited to an interview, you probably are invited to multiple interviews, not only one. And if companies do that right, when they combine interviews, they do it in a very structured way, as you can see on this slide. If you are invited to, let's say, 4 different interviews, it could happen that in every interview, different aspects are covered. Maybe in the first interview, which in this example is done by an HR person, it is about motivation, mobility. Why are you interested in this job? What drives you? Are you hungry enough for doing this job successfully? But also maybe about mobility. Are you willing to spend 2, 3, 4 days in the week in a different city, far away from home? Are you willing to travel? Things like this. While in the second interview, which might be done by the manager, by the prospective manager, it's about team ability, your ability to work in teams, and about your leadership skills. While in the third interview, which is done by a technical expert, it is very much about your technical skills. And in the fourth one, you might do a panel interview, not only with one single interviewer, but with a group of interviewers, maybe your prospective team. Okay, and there, again, it's about different aspects like maybe team ability and leadership. Okay? So, that's about interviews. Let's talk about our last